What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to The Awakened Soul. And on this week's In the Mind of Haize segment, what I'm going to be talking to you guys about is this whole impeachment thing, as well as just some other stuff that's kind of on my mind. You know, this is my place for my dark and twisted, crazy ass mind. First thing is with impeachment. So we got to hear the closing arguments. Well, we didn't get to hear, but they got to give their closing statements against Trump or whatever today. And remember when I said a couple of weeks ago, like when this whole impeachment thing first came down and people were celebrating impeachment, and we talked about the fact that impeachment doesn't mean removal, and then we also talked about the fact that all this was just a bunch of maneuvering, posturing, and unfortunately nothing was going to happen. That's exactly what went down. This whole impeachment trial really has just been a show. It's WWE at this point. It's being booked. It's all was basically predetermined. Everything that happened during this trial was really just a bunch of nothing, unfortunately. Testimony did come out, and even some of the people on the Republican side did seem to kind of turn on Trump. Not turn necessarily, but they did hear the arguments, and they may have voted for impeachment or been for the removal of Donald Trump. But the only problem with that is that it was never going to go anywhere. And then you wonder why. Like, you hear a lot about, conversations on the Democratic side and the Democratic Party, and what are they really doing? And does it look, after all of this, like they just got a bunch of egg on their face? I don't know. I'm not as versed to really go into all that, but it just really, you look at this and you're like, all right, could this money have been spent elsewhere? And don't get me wrong. I for one, I wish they would have been able to impeach Trump. I wish it would have been able to happen, but it didn't. And it was that way from the beginning. They voted to not hear extra witnesses' testimony. As soon as that happened, you knew it was kind of over. And even before then, like I said, if you've been paying close attention, even before then, you knew what was going to happen. So that's just one of the things. It just went that way. But yeah, and then, watching the Super Bowl, or just if you're watching TV and you start seeing these new Trump ads for re-election, and how he has black people talking about him and that he did great things for them. And listen, if I've been stressing this enough, I'm going to keep stressing this until the vote. All of this shit that you see is all maneuvering. That's all it is. It's all posturing, trying to brainwash people, trying to get people to think like that's not just exclusive to Trump either. Like it's across the political party in every election that they try to do. I told you guys the black vote was going to be very important. You were going to be seeing things geared towards black people. I didn't kind of expect it to go this hard. Like, watching this Trump commercial, I'm just sitting here like, really, motherfucker? Like, really, this is what you're doing? But the sad thing is that there are some people who are uninformed who will see that and say, oh, well, Trump is doing things for black people. And I'm not saying that this is the listeners here, because we talk about it here. I engage with you guys and everything else. Like I said, at the end of the day, all going into this election, people you just need to stay aware. You need to stay alert. You need to pay attention. Anybody that you're putting your vote behind, vet them. Vet them as much as you can. Vet their policies. Vet the things that they've done in their political history, or just the history in general. It's going to be an interesting year with the election coming up. It's like I said, at this point, our leaders, our politicians are all. It's WWE at this point. It's fucking pro wrestling. That's what it is. And as someone who comes from a pro wrestling background, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Vince McMahon could might as well have booked this. But going into something that I actually talked about on the Film Frequency. If you're not watching or listening to the Film Frequency, make sure you do this, where we discuss movies and film and TV, movies and film. You know what I mean. But on this week's episode, I talked about Joaquin Phoenix and his speech, and talking about the inclusion and the importance of diversity. And he mentioned how he's benefited from black people being kind of held down as well. And the thing that, I recorded my thoughts on that right after seeing it. So it was the night that it dropped, or the day that it dropped, and everything. And there wasn't really a huge social media reaction from it at that point yet. But, you see people who are now saying like, oh, well, he doesn't need to be praised. He even said that he's benefited from it. But the thing is, and again, I understand that standpoint. I understand the standpoint of not wanting to act like he did something over the top that was, but he spoke on it. And I even said it on the Film Frequency. We need to get people who notice it, but then also call it out and only decide to work on projects where stuff is inclusive. And I really don't want to come down on him like some of other black people are, because yeah, I get it. He didn't turn down a role or a big paycheck or anything because a black person or a person of color wasn't working on the set or casted. But at the same time, him using that platform, we always need allies. And so hopefully that's a step in the right direction. Hopefully it's a step of people who respect Joaquin Phoenix and want to work with Joaquin Phoenix to now say, all right, we're going to be more intentional about our diversity on our sets and on our projects. Hopefully that's what we can hope for. I, for one, I'm glad that it happened. I'm glad that it said, but it gets to a point where only so much talking is doing anything. We need action eventually. And so calling it out, I'm all for it. Now we need to start seeing some action behind it. And if we don't, then that's when I will personally start critiquing it a little bit more and saying, fuck you to people who just want to sit there and use the big stage to talk about it, but really not do anything for it. But as of right now, I'm really appreciative of what he said. I'm really appreciative of his words. Now let's just hope that we get some more action behind Hollywood. The last thing that I want to talk about, and this is a little bit, I guess it's not really left field, but it is different. Just coming from what we just talked about, and that is, I know the season finale of Power is coming up. It's coming this weekend. They pushed it back. They didn't want to air it on the Super Bowl, but there's going to be some hot takes on it. If you guys have already seen the leaks, I know some people are choosing to not believe that the leak finale is going to be the actual finale. And with 50 Cent, I can kind of understand that. But at the same time, you guys are going to be really upset when you see this. That's all I can say. I think that the social media outrage is going to be crazy for it. And I think we need to do that, because when you have these shows that we're behind, and this is something that I talk about a lot, and I actually was in the conversation with before, is that when we have things that are black, right, that are purely black, and well, not purely, but they're black focused, and we support them blindly just because it's black, and we support black film, and we don't call out some of the bullshit, that's when they continue to think they could throw anything. Like, there's a whole Power, several spinoffs being planned. And you know why? That's because Showtime, or Starz, I'm sorry, has seen the support that the black community is showing it. And they think, oh, well, let's just throw 15 more Star shows out there, and we're going to get so many black people to come and subscribe and pay. And the way that they've done these last 5 episodes has been completely bullshit, in my opinion. It's been lazy writing, terrible storytelling. All this shit has been bad and terrible, and I'm fucking pissed off about it. And I'm not sorry. It's terrible. It's not good. Why do you guys continue to allow this, and not you guys, the listeners, but the writers and stuff of this show, the showrunners, you stretched out really an episode or two and stretch it out into like just bullshit. And I'm so frustrated by and the season was so good before the break, and it's like we came back from the break, we ended on the cliffhanger of seeing Ghost get shot, and we just come back and it's been completely and utter bullshit since then. It's just, I mean, the Dre episode was good, the Tommy episode was great, the stuff between it hasn't been horrible, but it's just like, I see what you guys are doing. You extended this out for a cash grab, and we're going into the spinoff, and I swear to God, if the spinoff is focused solely on Tariq, I'm done with this shit. I'm done with it. Because Michael Rainey is a solid actor, but his acting isn't to the part of where you can build a whole show around him being the main character, I feel. And that's the guy who plays Tariq. I know, I'm just fucking venting because it's ridiculous what they've done with this show. You guys can't tell I'm mad. Everyone who's riding high off the Super Bowl, shout out, I lived in St. Louis, Missouri for a long time. I know a lot of people in Kansas City, Missouri as well. I know a lot of people are happy with what happened there. I know I kind of just switched gears. I had to get into something more positive because this Power thing my vein in my neck would have started popping. But I'm really happy. The Super Bowl, I wanted to just see a competitive Super Bowl. Neither was my team. My team's probably not going to be in the Super Bowl in my lifetime. But it was good to see, and it was good to see a good competitive game that was competitive late. There was a time period where it looked like Kansas City probably wasn't going to win, and they turned that completely around. It was just an exciting, a thrilling game. That's why this episode is coming late to you guys. But that's it. That's really all that's on my mind for this week's In the Mind of Haize segment. We're gonna go ahead and take a break. You're gonna hear from another Breaks Media podcast, and then we're gonna go into the Cookie Chronicles from the First Lady, and I'll see you guys after that with our main topic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I am back. Shout out to Tia, who just launched like her own store and everything, and that's just exciting. Like, I work with entrepreneurs, I work with people who do things. Shout out to her though. In the episode we did last week, the numbers have been great on that. But there's something that I wanted to talk to you guys about this week, and I know I had a whole episode. The episode was going to be built around the attachment theory. We're actually going to kick that down a couple of weeks and talk about that later, because something that was on my mind, and this is probably overall going to be a shorter episode and a shorter discussion topic, which it tends to be when I'm reflective on myself. And I'm in the middle of this water only fast, right? And it's to center myself, it's to help me focus, and just, it's not about weight or anything like that. So it has nothing to do with like that type of thing, but it's more of a spiritual fast. I wouldn't call it a religious fast. It's more of a spiritual fast. But what I will say is that going into this, like, and you think it's something as easy as taking away food. So I'm on a water only fast, right? And it got me thinking and being reflective, and that's how you know it's working already, is that we're so used to telling ourselves yes, right? We want to tell ourselves yes. We want to reward ourselves, right? And often when you are fasting from something, it's telling yourself no. So it's putting your desire to the side, really, right? And for some people, when it's a religious fast, when it's religious reasons, it's to connect to their higher source, to their higher being. But it got me thinking about this whole thing of telling yourself no and being reflective of that. Like, when you restrict something from yourself, you're taking that gap and filling it in with something else, right? Because whether, like I said, if it's a spiritual thing or religious thing you're doing, you're filling that up with your relationship with your higher power. Or if you're fasting from junk food, hopefully you're filling that gap in with something that's more healthy. But you're taking something, you're denying yourself something to fill it in with something else. And that got me to thinking of us denying or putting ourselves to the side, right? Sometimes we have to, it's hard to become secondary for a lot of us, right? And that's not meaning like the lack of being selfish. Like, it's not to say that you can't put people before you, but even some, like, your own basic desires, it's good. It makes you feel good. Like, it's a rewarding thing. It's an endorphin thing when you feel that and feel and give that to yourself, right? So when you restrict that, it really makes you sit there and think about the things that are optional in your life, or the things that you have become customary to giving yourself, but really for what, right? So I'm sitting here doing this fast where I'm doing only water, and I snack throughout the day and everything, and I love my Snickers, and and I'm sitting here thinking about it this way of like, all right, so when I'm filling myself with that, what am I really doing? I'm satiating a sweet tooth, right? That I don't have a big one on, but I'm satiating a sweet tooth. So if we take away satiating that sweet tooth and more so, and put that towards something else. So for example, what I'm filling my time up with is, I'm reading my Bible, but I'm also creatively. Anytime I take something away, I'm creative. And I wrote down and came up with this amazing episode, and then it turned into a series like Who Protects the Protector, which if you guys follow me, I'm sure you've been seeing me tweet about. And it's like, how many things, and the food is an extreme. So I'm not saying everyone go and take away or deny yourself food or anything like that. But I'm saying ultimately, when you think about the fact of denying yourself something and making yourself work back towards it, right? We so often want something quick. We want the quick fame. We want the quick success. We want the quick thing that lets us know that we did something good, and we want to be rewarded for it. And oftentimes we'll get so caught up in rewarding ourselves with something for minimal shit, right? You really haven't done much because you were at work on time. for 3 days in a row, you're going to go ahead and give you and let yourself get that extra lunch or that dessert or that snack or whatever, or you're going to go ahead and pat yourself on the back. I've made it to work 3 times in a row. You should be at work. So you're really rewarding yourself for something you should be doing anyway. Just like, how many things in your life are you sitting there constantly rewarding yourself for, or patting yourself on the back that ultimately is what you really should be doing anyway? You see it all the time. You see people on social media, or whatever, like boast about paying my bills are paid on time. You should be paying your fucking bills on time. If you're not paying your bills on time, it means you're living above your means. And then in that case, what? And that's not the people who live paycheck. I understand, like, living paycheck to paycheck. Shout out to Dan on drugs, because I know he'll get on my head about the way I just said that. But, and that's not, Dan's rich, but he talked about his, you guys know, you guys all listen to all of us. But the thing is that sometimes you have to, and it's funny because I was in a conversation with another podcast and I can't remember. And I was saying how everyone should make time for their passions, right? And the podcast, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't nobody like in the immediate Potter family, but he said, well, some people don't have that luxury. And I said, well, what makes you say it's a luxury? And he said, well, some people have kids, they work and they do XYZ and they don't have time for their passions. I responded to him with this. How many times did you play video games last week? And he really didn't say much back to that. And it was, that's the thing that I'm talking about. That's the fasting from portion. That's the denying yourself time or denying yourself something, because we will get so caught up in these routines and things that are fun. And don't get me wrong, you should make time for fun. I'm not saying that you're not, but if you're truly passionate about something, are you telling me that it's not worth not playing a video game to chase or to obtain something that you're passionate about? And if that's how you feel, then I mean, more power to you. I'm not one to judge, but just think about that. Like, how many things in your life could you subtract that really aren't going to hurt you from subtracting? I'm sitting here subtracting food, but how many things can you subtract from your life or from your time and then refill that with something positive? And then I know I started this off by saying you're telling yourself no or denying yourself something, but you're also telling yourself yes with something else. And as creatives and we work and we talk with so many creatives that it becomes hard to remember that there are some people who won't even take that chance to start that podcast. And some people who won't even take that chance to start a blog, because guess what? They're afraid to give up that little bit of sleep to get it done. They're afraid to give up that extra trip to the barbershop to get it done. They're afraid to give up their video game time. They're afraid to give up their time watching Power to put into something that they are truly could have a passion about and could ultimately be more rewarding than what they're spending that time on. And I'm not trying to sit here on my high horse and say what you should and shouldn't spend your time on, because ultimately that is your decision. You got free will, but then don't bitch about it. Don't sit back a couple of years later and complain about, oh, I never had time to start that blog. No, you had time. You just decided to use that time with something else. That's what you decided to put that time into. Or you have people who sit there and don't really get to spend time with their children. That's something that, in chasing my dreams, and again, you guys are hearing me through my whole reflectiveness. This is all that's been on my mind. One day into this fast, I put so much time into this creative stuff and the studio and that light system and this camera and sitting here crafting content that I had my daughter Amaya, whole daughter is sitting here wanting to learn videography, and I've learned it in the last year and I haven't taught her. I was so busy catching up and perfecting what my dream is that while I spend a lot of time with my kids, I didn't sit back and teach her something that she's passionate about. That's something that, again, being reflective. So like, as I'm going into the rest of 2020, I'm cutting back on some recording. I'm time to limit myself, because guess what? Every time I do a video now, my daughter's going to be sitting right here editing this with me. I sat down with her for, it was about like an hour the other day, and showed her how to edit a video from start to finish. And when I say she was hanging on every word, and that made me feel, that's a moment that we shared together, that we don't need a bunch of other stuff to validate that. Like that hour that we spent of her learning and seeing what I'm doing when I edit a video was better than us going skating for a minute or us playing Monopoly. And those moments are special too, but you have to slow down sometimes and recognize everything that's going on. And that's just where I am right now. I'm very passionate about it. And last year in 2019, I performed or did about 6 to 8 events all over the country. I didn't do any here in Columbus where I'm actually stationed. I did Cloud City, but that was the only one that I did in my actual city. Everything else was spread out. And that's because I was chasing it. It was something that I'm passionate about. I want to get in front of that and I want to do those things. But I in 2020, I realized I need to take those events away a little bit and focus more. Yes, here in Columbus, I can do a lot here in Columbus and still not be gone for 2 days to do it, and get more time with my children, get more time with my daughter to teach her videography. Once the weather gets better again, we're going to go out and shoot some B-roll footage. And I'm going to teach her like perspectives and depth of field and all. I'm getting sidetracked, but it's all about putting your energy in the proper places. It's all about, like I said, denying yourself something so that you can fulfill something else elsewhere. And it may not even be in you. That's something that we haven't even got a chance to talk about yet, is that I'm sitting here and I've only talked about things that you can take away from you to ultimately put back into you. But you can except for when we talked about my daughter, but you can take that time away from you and help bless somebody else. You can help fulfill somebody else's dream. You can help teach and do tutorials, or you can take that time out playing video games or out watching stories and gossiping with your friends, and take that time out to go and volunteer one day. 4 hours. You're going to probably play those 4 hours collectively over the week of video games and gossip anyway. Why not putting that 4 hours into something else? You have to sometimes deny yourself things that can benefit you and bless other people around you. But sometimes you also got to deny other things around you that aren't even necessarily you. Sometimes you have to deny your friends. Sometimes you have to deny loved ones for you as well. Like, you have to really sit back, and I want everyone to be reflective over looking at what they want to accomplish. Where do you want to go? What is that dream? What is that thing that you haven't got a chance to start? And how can you do it? Even if you can only dedicate an hour or two of the week and cut an hour out somewhere else, what can you do? That's just my fasting mindset at this point. I'm looking and being reflective and thinking about things. And it's funny because I was reading a lot on fasting before I started with this particular type of fast. And it says that the clarity of mind is real when you do a water only fast. And people will get so caught up in the hunger pains that comes and goes, but you are very focused. And like, I read a whole thing that was about the fact that humans at one point were hunters and gatherers, right? So there were times where we would hunt a deer, for example. We would eat that deer and then not have meat, or share that deer with the village and then not have meat for a whole nother week and had to survive off other things. But we have become so accustomed to just having things readily available that we constantly eat meats, and our body doesn't have time to break down certain enzymes and detox certain things. And that's what filters into cancer. That's what filters into not being able to focus mentally, because we had that hunter's mind that had to focus in when we weren't getting as much of this stuff. And now we lack that. So that's one of the benefits of like civilization advancing, but that's a story for another day. It ultimately just needs, I think, for me, it's I'm going to probably do this more often now. I may even do this once a month. So that's 7 days out every month that I'm 5 days, because I'm not going to last the 7. I'm just going to let you guys know. Keep me lifted up in prayer. But 5 days a month to where you're only surviving off water. And then how does that filter into your health and factor into your joints and everything else, feeling better? I'm someone who suffers from chronic back pain, so I'll see how that goes going forward. I'll give you guys an update on that. But yeah, that's just where my mind is on this. And it's that fasting mindset. Fast from something. And again, it's not a religious thing. It's not always have to be a spiritual thing. Sometimes it's just it's a form of being selfish. As we talk about denying ourselves, it's still a form of being selfish, because you are taking away and you're giving back, or you're giving back to something else. And there's no better way to like magnify and highlight and all that other stuff of people around you and you. But yeah, that's it for this segment. We're gonna go ahead and get into another break. We're gonna come back. I got one more thing to talk to you guys about. I'll be right back after this. All right, so we're coming back with our last segment today, and This one is because this is my first episode in February, first episode of Black History Month. I didn't want to do the typical thing and like moments in Black history or people to magnify from that's in the Black culture, but I do want to talk about this. Black History Month is every fucking month, and when you look at the building blocks of this country, we built this shit. We maybe not be the people who developed it. We probably weren't given the education to be able to develop certain things scientifically or economically, but we are the foundation blocks of this country. So while everyone is celebrating Blackity Black and all this in February, realize that America wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for Black people. So while this is nationally recognized as Black History Month, every month is Black History Month. And I don't even say that to be like all Black empowerment or Black versus white or anything like that. But I think we've gotten caught up in this sense of the month that they designated towards us, and that's when we want to celebrate our Blackness. That's when we want to wear this, and this is when we want to tweet these certain things. Every fucking month is Black History Month, if you ask me, and I mean that. So why I'm not doing a lot of the retweeting of Black history stuff, it's not because I don't support. It's not because we don't need to be recognized. But who are they to tell us designate a month for us? Designate a month to just, let's give them the shortest month of the year. Let's go ahead and we're gonna finally acknowledge Black people this month. You got Google, and there's a lot of companies and organizations who do great things in Black History Month and do great things throughout the year. So I'm not even going to sit there and point out any of those or call them out or anything like that. So all I want to say is tell somebody who inspired you that's Black, whatever. Tell them thank you. Not because it's February, but tell them thank you because of what our people spilled, what we had to go through, what we continue to go through, and the fact that we take it in a sense, right? We take what we're given. We always turn it into something more than what it's given. But I want everyone today to sit back, whether it's their ancestors, whether it's their mother, their father, their great aunt. If you got to pray up to somebody who is in your family, and just tell them thank you. Because all the shit that we've had to deal with and endure as a people, it comes to the forefront at different points, different times of the year when a movie comes out, XYZ. But ultimately, I really feel that while, yes, this is the time to celebrate us, this is the time to celebrate our accomplishments and be unified. That's ultimately, I think, what Black History Month is really turned into, is a chance for us to unify. We should unify every day, every month, every year. So I appreciate Black History Month, but every month is Black History Month, if you ask me. And I mean that. We impact the culture in a way that no other race does, no other culture does. Really, when you think about it, we're imitated, we're duplicated. Our everything from our culture, whether it ends up filtering in somewhere else late, our influence can be felt everywhere. Everywhere. We are the heartbeat. We are the soul. That's my honest opinion. That's not to put down any other race, but that's to say that we are that. And I mean that. I feel that. We are the soul. And I know we're on the awakened soul, but don't designate a month for my people. Don't designate a month for a time for us to celebrate our accomplishment. Don't designate a month for us to celebrate our history. No. You're going to see this Black Pride every day, all day. And if you haven't noticed it, for the dumbasses who treat stuff and what Tommy Lauren, whatever her name is, we are the heartbeat. We are the soul. And I mean that. So while I appreciate Black History Month, as I said before, every month is Black History Month. This has been The Awakened Soul. I'm your host, CEO Haize. You can follow me at CEO Haize. Follow the podcast at Awakened Soul Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, theawakenedsoulpod@gmail.com. And lastly, If you want to call us in, leave a voicemail, we'll play it on the podcast. It is 614-547-2039. This has been The Awakened Soul, and I'm out. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.